The 1893 Chicago World's Fair, also known as the World's Columbian Exposition, was a celebration of the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's discovery of the New World. The fair is 6 months long, from May 1st to October 30th, held in Jackson Park, Illinois.
New York and Chicago were neck and neck in the race to host the 1893 World's Fair. Congress was put in charge of picking the host, and although Chicago was an underdog because it was a new state, they had grit and determination. The day of the vote finally arrived. Chicago came out first with 157 votes, and New York with 107. Chicago won because of its phenomenal railroad station and its determination.
A few of the inventions that were first displayed at the fair were gum, stamps, zippers, the dishwasher, spray paint, the Ferris wheel, the moving sidewalk, and the captivating turnstile. Some of the food first introduced at the fair are still very popular today. For example, cheeseburgers, Cracker Jacks, shredded wheat, pancake mix, and many others.
Another attraction at the World's Fair was the Statue of the Republic, also known as Big Mary. It was made by Daniel Chester French, who was also the architect that built the statue of Abraham Lincoln in the Lincoln Memorial. The Statue of the Republic was the second tallest statue in America after the Statue of Liberty. She was 65 feet tall with a crown of electric lights. French said, "An American goddess stood forth, with her golden hair covered in shimmering draperies, and by night a halo of stars around her head."
The 1893 Chicago World's Fair brought many new inventions, but unfortunately, many of the inventions were destroyed in the Great Fire. It was a fateful day on July 10th, when the fire started in the smokestack of one of the food storage buildings.
The firefighters arrived just in time to save many people's lives. As they started to extinguish the first fire, a second one broke out 70 feet below them. The fire was growing rapidly, and many of the firefighters were unable to escape. A Tribune writer wrote, "Closer and closer together huddled the men on the narrow wooden ledge that stood between them and death. They knew that there was little chance of escape, and with the courage of true heroes they resolved to meet it like brave men. One poor man forced his way through the little band of comrades, but this was no selfish object. He grabbed one of them by the hand and threw his arms around his neck, and there they said goodbye to one another." The fire was eventually extinguished, leaving the storage building in ruins.
As 25,000 people watched this tragedy, people were getting suspicious on how the fire started. Earlier that year, there had been electrical issues with the building, and the insurance company noted that there had not been enough firewalls, and they refused to continue their coverage. The jury convicted 4 men believed to have started the fire: Daniel Burnham, who was the director of the fair; Edward Murphy, who was the marshal of the World's Fair Fire Department; John Skinner, who was the president and general manager of Hercules Ironworks Company; and Charles McDonald, the secretary and president of the same ironworks company. None of these people were guilty of starting the fire that killed 12 firefighters and 4 civilians. Although they weren't arrested, they had to pay bonds.
After the fire died down, the storage building was left in ruins, and the ashen bodies were taken to the World's Fair morgue. The only thing in the building that survived was the statue of Christopher Columbus that the firefighters had dragged down before the fire had spread because it was in their way.
Daniel Burnham said, "It was Chicago with its World Fair, which vivified the national desire for civic beauty." But after the fire, was the fair still an icon that vivified the national desire for civic beauty? Of course it was. The fire didn't deter anyone from coming. Thousands of people continued to go and see the magic of the World's Fair.
The fair ended on October 30th, 1893, because of a smallpox epidemic. And the mayor, Carter Harrison, was assassinated by Patrick Eugene Prendergast, an unemployed Irish immigrant, 2 days before the fair ended. Also slightly before, the fair was struggling financially, and the Ferris wheel kept it from completely closing. But they knew it would not last. A few weeks before the fair ended, a fire swept the fairgrounds and reduced the beautiful city to ruins.
The World's Columbian Exposition has left a big imprint on us today. It was a huge turning point for America. It was a time to show off new inventions, foods, ideas, and creativity. If the World's Columbian Exposition never happened, we wouldn't have the
Inventions in foods that have given so many people jobs in stores, restaurants, and factories. Books, movies, TV shows, and games were also invented to help spread the word of the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. It also brought money to the United States that was used for the addition of new roads, parks, and other infrastructures. Civic beauty was also a major triumph. People from all different races, genders, and ages came together as equals, not one better than the other.